Today I'm going to show you what it's like to drive the all-new Huracan Sterrato from a first-person point of view. Yes, this is an off-road Lamborghini, which makes absolutely no sense, but that's why it makes all the sense in the world. Under the hood of the Huracan Sterrato is the same 5.2-liter naturally aspirated V10 from the rest of the Huracan lineup. Only in this case, it makes slightly less power, 602 horsepower and 413 pound-feet of torque, 0 to 60 in 3.4 seconds, and a top speed of 160 miles an hour. But check this out. It's got a roof scoop. This is owned by Salamandra, and he goes, you have to look at how ugly the roof scoop entry is into the car. It actually does look kind of cheap. The roof scoop comes in right here, and I guess in order to make it so you can still open that engine bay cover, it had to be two pieces, and they're made of this cheap looking plastic. Very interesting. Now, if we close this, you'll notice you actually can't see anything out of the back of the car. There's zero rear view visibility. I imagine they didn't want to make it glass so it doesn't shatter off-road, but definitely an interesting choice. Now, the car has been widened from the standard Huracan with these awesome widened fenders, but it actually allows the track of the car to be wider as well. In the front, similar thing. Now, we've also got these rally off-road lights. How crazy is that? So if you want to rally in the nighttime, you've got these kind of bolted on aftermarket looking lights, but this is from the factory. We've got a new front bumper. That way it's got less of an overhang from the standard Huracan, so you can go up really steep inclines and not scrape the bottom of the bumper. Now, underneath is actually aluminum skid plates. So this thing has armor on it like it's a lifted truck. Speaking of lifted, it's obviously got more ground clearance. Similar suspension setup to the standard Huracan, the Magnaride dampers, but it actually has 25% more travel in the front and 35% more travel in the rear. Now, to avoid getting dust into the engine bay, they've actually closed off this intake, which is normally where the Huracan would get air. Then they've added this really cool roof scoop up here. It's also got an optional tire, and you can add a bike on the top or luggage. Honestly, this might be the most daily drivable Huracan and maybe the most awesome Huracan ever made. It's absolutely ridiculous, but that's what makes it so awesome. And for some people who have more money than God, they want to pay $28,000 for this black stripe here. Literally, it's like $28,000 for just this paint. But apparently, they're only making 50 of them, so it might be a good investment. Now, the interior of the Sterrato is very similar to the standard Huracan. Look how gorgeous these carbon fiber bucket seats are. We've got this really cool handle right here to slide the seat forward and backwards. Yes, it is manually adjustable seats, but they look so darn cool. Let's go ahead and hop inside. To fire up that naturally aspirated V10, flip this up, turn the engine on. And check this out, we're in Strata mode right now. We've got sport and a new mode, rally mode, that loosens the suspension, lessens traction control, and makes the car more rear-wheel drive. You'll also notice that the screens change as you flip through the modes. The rest of it is very similar. Actually, it's identical to the rest of the Huracan line. All right, guys, let's take it for a drive. Here we go. All right, so we're gonna start this off in Strata mode because I've seen so many videos of what this thing is like to drive off-roading, but the reality of the situation is most people who are going to drive this car and buy this car are likely gonna take delivery in the Southern California area or in Miami or Monaco and drive it on the streets. And honestly, it's an incredible daily driver, which is kind of a ridiculous thing to say to a car that looks like this. But here's the reason why. For one, in supercars, you've got to go slow when you're going up a driveway into the gas station or just going to the shopping center or even getting into your own driveway unless you've got a very car enthusiast friendly driveway. You've got to go at an angle. Well, it's higher off the ground and it's got a better incline for the front end, so you can just literally almost ram the car forwards like a normal vehicle, and you don't have to slow down and anger everyone around you who doesn't understand low cars have to go slow and at an angle. You've also got softer suspension, especially in rally mode. It softens up those springs a little bit, and that means it takes bumps a lot better than the standard Huracan, and certainly a lot better than something, of course, like a Huracan STO that's meant for the track. You legitimately could daily drive this. We hit some bumps earlier on the freeway, and I felt like this car took the bumps better, and I mean this seriously, than my Tesla Model S Plaid, which doesn't make any sense, but it also kind of makes sense because this is supposed to be able to handle ridiculous bumps if you were to take it off-road. Now, at some point, I'm hoping, I have been in contact with someone who appears to want to let me absolutely thrash their car, Huracan Sterrato, off-road, so we'll do that in another time. Could you imagine if I'm just like referring to Alejandro and he has no idea yet? Oh yeah, look at this off-road course. But honestly, like I said, you're not gonna really see these cars going off-roading very much, so I feel like it's more relevant what it's like to drive on the street itself. See, that was a pretty intense bump that you would have cringed if you were in, you know, a Huracan Evo or a STO, but it literally took it like an absolute champion. So we're gonna go ahead and flip around up here and then put it into sport mode and see what it's like in a bit more exciting driving environment. But honestly, I'm so impressed with this. Even the carbon fiber buckets, I feel like they've redesigned them slightly because they look really, really hard, but they don't feel hard. So if you put it into sport mode, the baffles of the exhaust open up and you start to get those traditional Lamborghini V10 backfires that just sound so dang good. Now, it is effectively the slowest Lamborghini Huracan they've ever made, but it really doesn't feel like that. They say 0 to 60 in 3.4 seconds, a top speed of 160. I mean, realistically, I believe the Huracan's top speed is like 204. You're not gonna do that. I mean, if you're lucky enough to live in Germany and have a lot of guts and want to do that on the Autobahn, that's freaking awesome, but the reality is 160 miles an hour is definitely fast enough, and it actually does pull pretty well, which I will demonstrate when this Dodge gets out of the way. All right, here we go. It still pulls. It is funny, with the tire on the roof, it makes a heck of a lot of wind noise, so I imagine the aerodynamics are absolutely wrecked. Now, it does have a teeny bit more body roll than you're used to in a Huracan. It definitely tips over a bit more to the side when you're on the brakes. The front end dips more downwards, but you know, it's unlikely you're gonna take this on the track, but if you do, I have seen a handful of videos where people really pushed the car around the track and it did handle a lot better than people were expecting. I mean, at the end of the day, it is a Lamborghini, it's all-wheel drive, and it is impressive in literally every environment. I think that's what's so cool about this car. You can drive it on the track, you can drive it on the street, it's like really amazing on the street, and you can drive it off-roading, which is just, I mean, what a concept. I don't know how they came up with this. Like, obviously, Group B rally cars, so on and so forth, but who decided, you know what our next project is? They probably went, how can we milk the Huracan just a little bit more? We've made 45 versions, we need to make 46 now, and what if we lifted it up? Maybe the next version is actually a little bit lower and it goes on ice instead of dirt. We'll see. But it's pretty incredible that they did this, and it's also so interesting that they released it at a similar time as the Porsche Dakar. A couple more downshifts just to hear what this thing sounds like. It sounds really good. Oh my gosh. Those are some, what the heck? Oh, they're spraying the lines. Stay far away from that. The steering feels really nice too. It honestly doesn't feel really any different than a Huracan Evo. It doesn't feel heavier or sloppier because it's got that widened track. It feels nice. And that first gear pulls like crazy. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Like always, please browse the channel and subscribe. Special thanks to Salamandrin for making this video possible. Make sure to subscribe to him as well. All right, guys, see you next video.